Welcome back to Spectrum Sundays, where we introduce professionals and self-advocates who play an important role in the autism community. We also love to highlight the women behind the Miss America organization and to showcase all that they do for our communities.
And this week, we are so excited to welcome a fellow autism advocate and Miss America sister, Christina Beard, who serves her community as Miss Forest Park under the Miss Missouri Scholarship Organization. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Of course.
So could you start by giving us a quick resume of your education and your experiences as a Miss America title holder?
Yeah, so I am a senior at Drury University. I'll be graduating in December, so a few short weeks, thank goodness. I'm majoring in music with a minor in communications, so that's all fun and jolly there. And then I've been involved in the Miss America organizations now for 4 years in total. 1 year was done in Outstanding Teen, the rest in Miss.
Awesome. So you're in Missouri, which is probably right down. What part of Missouri are you from?
I'm originally from Eldon, Missouri, which is in the middle of the state between Jefferson City and the Lake of the Ozarks.
Okay, so Christina and I actually connected a few years ago. I think we found each other over Instagram, and I was competing for Miss Pennsylvania at the time, but visiting Mizzou for my open house for my program, and we just missed each other back then. So we're really happy to finally connect with you.
Yes.
And actually, for some clarification, have you always competed in Missouri or elsewhere?
Yeah, I've always competed in Missouri. I grew up in Missouri in Eldon and have been there my entire life.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. So could you also explain a little bit more about your social impact initiative, See the Able, Not the Label, and some of your goals that you wish to accomplish through it?
Yeah. So the reason why I started See the Able, Not the Label to spread awareness about autism and advocacy is my brother was actually diagnosed with developmental PDD NOS, just to simplify it there, pervasive developmental disorder, not otherwise specified, at the age of 3. And I just felt like that I always, as a sibling and only sibling, I felt like I was always his advocate. And I wanted to take that to the next step by creating See the Able, Not the Label. Right now, I've partnered with Stars for Autism, which is a nonprofit organization in Springfield, Missouri, and we work with creating autism-friendly communities throughout the state of Missouri and giving those free resources so that way everyone can understand autism.
That's wonderful. So you mentioned a little bit about how this passion for advocating for autism began through your brother and just your family dynamic. So whether it's between you being a sibling of a person with autism or just individuals that you've worked with across your social impact initiative, what has been some of your most memorable experiences?
Yeah, it was before I started re-competing in the Miss America organization. It was when I created this UCT Gives Back video, United Commercial Travelers of America. And I was working with Truman Elementary at the time. So they were kids 5th grade and below. And I was highlighting in this video the Rolling Cafe for this special education class so they could win $10,000. And one of the kids, his name was Chase, and I worked with him exclusively because he was always the key person who changed money between people and selling them through the Rolling Cafe. And I will just never forget that moment when we had won that first place and that $10,000, how excited he was, because he's like, I can't wait to share everyone else in Springfield about the Rolling Cafe and what I'm doing. And so it was just really exciting to see how those kids reacted to that.
Wow. And if you don't mind me asking, what does that $10,000 go to?
Yeah, so that $10,000 went to their special education class and to create startup rolling cafes throughout other schools in Springfield.
Wow, that is so amazing. That's a lot of money. That's nothing to scoff at. That's awesome, really. So I was checking out your website and I saw that you have a pledge, and I took the pledge, which is See the Able, Not the Label. And it's where your community and followers can take a step towards acceptance for peers with autism. What was your inspiration for your pledge, and how do you think it's impacted your community so far?
When I started visiting kids in schools and talking to people in community events, they're like, well, what can we do after we've learned this training? Or now that we understand autism, what can we do next? So I created this Take This pledge on my seetheable.info, my website. So that way everyone can take this quiz and to sign this info and to make sure that they continue to see the able, not the label.
That's incredible, Christina. So anyone watching that's not familiar with Miss America organization title holders, we have the very unique opportunity of directly impacting our communities. So it sounds like maybe you visit a few different schools throughout your year of service to talk about autism.
Yes, I have. And specifically when I go into schools, I'm often asked to play the fiddle, which is my talent. So I kind of lead in with that. And I also talk about what am I passionate about and how can they learn about it as well. And I also highlight books that I'm reading from or kids' books that really dive deep into what autism is.
That's amazing. So it's especially incredible that you have a direct resource that whenever you walk away from that school, they can really tap into whatever it is that makes acceptance meaningful in their own community. So thank you for creating that pledge and continuing that education. So we talked a little bit about being an MAO title holder. How has your social impact initiative shaped your life and your career goals?
Yeah. So this initiative really was pushed when I did become a title holder in the Miss America organization because I had a platform to speak on. It gave me more opportunities than I could even imagine. So with See the Able, Not the Label, I mean, I hope to create more autism-friendly cities and to really integrate that into the classroom. So that way it's just not, oh, you have these kids in a special education class and you have your, quote, normal kids in a separate classroom, that they're integrated.
Awesome. And another part of being an MAO title holder is that we get to share a talent. And as musician to musician, I'm really interested to know how you get to use your title as Miss Forest Park to further your music goals and maybe vice versa, how your music goals help you personally.
Yeah. So I started playing the fiddle when I was 7 years old. I started asking my parents at the age of 4 if I could play this fiddle because I was really obsessed with it and I just wanted to learn how to make music. But through Miss America, I've been able to perform on stage, entertain the crowd, but also do events where I can perform and just create music. Besides the fiddle, I play the flute, the piccolo, piano, guitar, and also sing. And as being a music major and being multi-talented, it has furthered those career goals that I have, maybe writing music one day, becoming a music therapist. There's just so many things that I can do with music.
That is so cool. I am not musical by any means. So just to hear all the variety of instruments that you play and the way that you're able to integrate that passion of yours into what you do as a Miss America title holder and to carry that through, because I feel like a lot of people don't realize what sets us apart from many other organizations. And it really does go down to talent, and that can look so different in every single individual that competes. So I love hearing about all the different talents that are out there. So on Spectrum Sundays, we've talked a lot about different self-advocates who have autism and advocate for this entire community. And we've talked a lot about Temple Grandin, and you've actually met her twice, which is just amazing. So we just wanted to know if meeting her had any special influence on your life and how you approach your advocacy work as an ally in the autism community.
Yeah. So meeting Temple, there's not very many women who come forth and say, yes, I have autism. There's just not that many. And even statistically speaking, there's just not as many women who are diagnosed. And so that was just really special to see how she has dealt with having autism and what she has done as an advocate herself, and especially in the agriculture community. The first time I met her was in Texarkana, Arkansas. I was like, I need to go to this conference. I need to see her in person. I really want to hear what she has to say and give her words of wisdom. The second time was with Stars for Autism. We invited her to Springfield, Missouri, and she actually was able to come. This was back in February. So right before COVID all happened, we got to meet her, and she sat down with also Stars for Autism and talked about what are things we can further as advocates ourselves.
I'm so jealous.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
That's on my bucket list, to meet Temple Grandin someday.
I highly recommend it. It's really so great.
Definitely. So earlier you mentioned that you're considering music therapist as a potential career, but Megan and I are currently in training as speech language pathologists. So we wanted to know how therapists can play a role in the diagnosis and treatment of autism, and have speech language pathologists or other therapists played a role in your family's journey in acceptance and education for autism.
Yeah. So that really started when my brother was diagnosed. My parents actually looked for a music therapist in the area, but they were only 2 hours away. It was either St. Louis, Kansas City, or Springfield, which is really far. We did settle for a speech pathologist in our local area. When they finally brought the speech pathologist, we actually started him at the Thompson Center, working with speech therapist. And as Megan has also worked with the Thompson Center, so that's really great. For music therapists and speech pathologists, I mean, through the diagnosis process, we're trying to meet a common goal of reaching those clients' goals. And what can we do to improve their daily lives? As a music therapist, we're using those musical-based goals. We're using music instruments to creatively reach what are their life goals. If it's just like a hand movement, if it's working on speech through a book, but also using music as a way to integrate that.
Right. Thank you for sharing that. And I kind of lit up whenever you said Thompson Center, because that is one of our organization, University of Missouri. They're collaborating with the Thompson Center, and they provide a comprehensive assessment and diagnosis and treatment for autism and other neurodevelopmental disorders. So I would really love to see that expand even more into the music therapy and the art therapy, because Francesca and I have talked a lot about this on Spectrum Sundays, but those kinds of services and outlets really, not only for people with autism, but, you know, people in general, the arts is really an avenue for exploring creativity. So that's incredible that that's something that you want to pursue as well. So as you may know, the goal of Spectrum Sundays is to raise awareness and to connect the autism community. And as you have been advocating for many years for acceptance, we would like to know how acceptance and inclusion has impacted your own life.
Yeah. So when my brother was first diagnosed, it was kind of, not necessarily a shock, because we saw what the symptoms were. I was very young at the time. So my parents and him were going back and forth to Columbia for all these tests every week, and eventually turned into having speech therapy, traveling to Columbia, which is an hour drive on a weekly basis. For him, after the diagnosis, it was just, you adjusted and you accepted the fact that he had autism. And being able in the school system, it was especially a struggle. The IEP process is always just difficult for anyone. But for him, we eventually took him out of elementary school and we homeschooled him up until high school, and finally integrated him back into the quote normal classroom. And he took those classes. But as myself, being an advocate in improving acceptance of autism has always been a key factor. Even in school, when I was at school and still in high school with him, it was my senior year when he came back into school. And so sharing with other kids in my class that, hey, this is okay, that he's in the classroom and that he's doing great.
So I actually have a follow-up question to that. Being a sibling of a person with autism, what did that look like, and acceptance specifically within your peer groups and just in the high school atmosphere in general? I know that in that age, it can be really hard to accept differences because you're kind of trying to find your niche and you're starting to really develop your identity. So I feel like that's where a lot of bullying could end up happening. So was that part of the experience, or was acceptance a huge role? And if one or the other, how did you kind of navigate that as a sibling?
Yeah. So Eldon is a relatively small knit community, and the school itself is really small. So that is especially helpful. Larger schools kind of have trouble with that, I would say. I remember distinctly in fourth grade when I read this book called Rules. I can't remember who the author is by, but seeing that at a Scholastic book fair. And it was about this girl who had her brother was on the autism spectrum. And I remember reading that book and being like, wow, this is someone I can relate to, even though it was, yes, a fictional character, but it was someone I could relate to because I didn't know many people who had the same experience I did as a sibling of someone with autism. And that was really when it sparked my interest of, I want to do something with this one day to be able to advocate for my brother, and making sure that others like him are just as okay. So in high school, when he was integrated back, it was starting the conversation between those special education classrooms and the quote normal classroom, and making sure that it's okay that they're in those classrooms and that they can learn just as effectively as your quote normal students.
Yeah. And I couldn't help but think from our conversation so far, a huge takeaway that I've gotten as a new professional is you mentioned that the speech pathologists are working towards their goals of the client's goals. So always keeping the client at the center of the goals. What are they striving for? What are they trying to achieve? And adjusting. I think that is so important, just meeting that person where they are and working from there and using their strengths to build on some of those gaps in communication. So thank you so much for sharing. I think that was a huge takeaway maybe for working professionals, but what is an idea or message that you'd like our viewers to take away from our conversation today?
Yeah, be accepting. Understand that, yes, they're all different. It is a spectrum. So not every single person is the same, just like everyone that we're talking to right now is not the same person. So just being able to see the able, not the label, see their abilities first before you see that label.
Yes, that is, put it out on a billboard and flashing, blinking lights for everybody to see. Thank you so much for sharing that. And we can truly see that you're really showing this through everything that you do and your entire passion for what you're kind of advocating for as Miss Forest Park. So thank you for that. So going off of that, what are some upcoming events with your social impact initiative or just daily events for you as Christina?
So the first things first for me is that I graduate. And then after that, I'm really going to focus in on what I want to further with my social impact. One of the things that I'm currently working on is kind of on the back burner in a little bit of ways is the University Ambassador Program for universities in Springfield. With Stars for Autism, I am categorized as their university ambassador. So I'm looking forward to creating programming in the universities there so that kids with autism, because my brother is at the age of 20, he's almost at that college age. So I want to see kids like him to be able to be in those classrooms as well at the universities.
Incredible. That's remarkable. Thank you for that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And as we're wrapping up today, where can our viewers find you and follow your social impact initiative? So is it a website, your Instagram handle, Facebook?
Yeah. So my website is seetheablenothelabel.info, and please sign up there and take that pledge. The second thing is Instagram. You can follow me at Christina Beard or at Miss Forest Park. And on Facebook, you can find me at Christina Beard, Miss Forest Park.
Well, thank you, Christina, for chatting with us today. We will certainly be following your journey to Miss Missouri. And do you have a date for Miss Missouri yet?
Yes, we do. I think it's the June 11th through the 19th. It's that second week in June.
Okay, awesome. So everybody wish her a great good luck in her journey. And thank you for watching Spectrum Sundays. We will see you next Sunday.